One of the things I got from the last video is you have a massive head. Either that or my head's tiny.
I just claimed
it looks really disproportionate.
I claimed it as false perspective, like they did in Lord of the Rings, just because.
What?
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I did say previously this would be a series.
Yeah.
And he's had me back. And this time he's even let me sit on a comfy sofa. It's not just on a wooden bench.
Well, now I know you're proper and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now with friends.
You can have a cushion.
Yeah. So I get treated today, which is quite nice. We're back for what is probably episode 3 of our MOAR Winters series, just because people love hearing what you have to say about this hobby.
Nah.
They do.
People love hearing what you say about the hobby. That's why they tune into your channel. I'm just here to talk and talk and talk and talk.
Well, we're not here to tickle each other's egos.
No, let's not do that. But thank you for the mug.
Yeah, well, it cost me a fortune.
Did it?
Skint now.
It could be bigger.
Yeah, that's what my wife says. So we did the first 2 videos. If you haven't seen them already, head on over and check them out. They did really quite well, actually. The first one specifically did really, really well. I gained a load of followers just from that video alone, from your advertising, which was absolutely incredible.
Say that I sat and watched it all the way through again? Well, I didn't.
Again? How many times?
Well, no, because we did it, and then when you published it, and when I was painting away, I thought I'll put it on and listen to it, and even I chuckled.
Yeah, I thought it was
narcissistic, but I don't watch very many of mine. I'll watch a few clips here or there when people refer to stuff, but I tend not to watch them back.
I have my stuff on repeat.
Do you?
Yeah, for the kids.
Yeah.
Educate them early.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did really well. So we really enjoyed it. We said during those 2 videos, if you give us questions, we'll do more. There was a load of questions that came out of those 2 videos. Yeah. So we've got more. So I spent some time over this last weekend trawling through all the comments on videos and messages I've had on YouTube and messages I've had in email form and messages from patrons. Yeah. And I've got some of them here. We're not going to even get through all of these because there's so many, and I haven't even written all of them down. There is just so much that people want to know. Good. And there seems to be quite an even balance between fluff and crunch type stuff, which is amazing also, because it means we can cover both aspects of rules and the way the story is going to progress.
I think it's amazing that you came prepared, because last time I told you to write stuff down. You were like, just write a few things down.
So I don't like writing stuff down.
Jumped in.
I don't like writing stuff down. It's not. I like to just go for it, but because so many people have asked specific questions, if I said, give us your questions and we'll answer them, and then I never write them down, then people are going to go, all right, I'm not bothering with you anymore. Yeah. So I had to do it. Yeah. So there were some really interesting questions. There were some questions that hit us that I think we probably covered in the first 2 videos, which we probably won't go too much depth in. One was about whether they are pushing the current Imperial versus Chaos type warfare. I think we covered that in one of the videos. We certainly spoke about it, I know. If we don't get to your question now, I apologise. I have got them, and we will get through them at some point, I hope, in the soon or distant future. Unfortunately, this man is very busy and booked up quite a lot with all your battle reports and filming and what have you.
I hate to sound like I'm booked till March.
Yeah, see, I'm not booked next week.
I can't say no. People say, what about can you? Yeah, fine. And then someone else says, and then someone else says, and before I know it's March.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I just get forgotten about. So I've jotted down. We're going to go for some questions. We are filming on the new filming device, so we won't need to keep pausing. However, it might make me ramble for a bit more. Are you going to cut this into a couple of videos again? I might do, if we've got enough, because it's better for me that way. Yeah, well, it's bite-sized chunks and all that. Yeah. Rather than a 2-hour video, have a couple of 40 minutes. So I've got some questions scribbled down. They're in no particular order, just dragged off YouTube comments predominantly. We'll do some, maybe we'll even do a question as a teaser for you on your channel perhaps, or something. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. It's up to him. I just get led by this man. Let's dive in. So we'll start from the top because it's just the easiest. So the first question I picked out, which was quite interesting, there was a comment that I actually think this has been poignant and prominent throughout most editions of 40k actually. Okay. The question was simply, do you think Games Workshop is trying to pump models that are not selling with well-written codices or codices and then therefore make those models more powerful in order to sell them in the future? So if they've got a stock of models that they think these aren't doing very well, Codex is up and coming, let's pump their rules up here somewhere so we sell more. Yeah, okay. Do you think they do that? No. Do you not? I don't think they do that now. They used to, didn't they? They used to, I think, definitely. I'm sort of on the fence at the moment. I think they kind of do as well. Look at Corn Berserkers.
Yeah.
So Corn Berserkers. This is my case in point. Is Corn Berserkers.
Okay.
Corn Berserkers were pretty terrible in 7th. To be fair, they have a plastic kit. The plastic kit is also pretty terrible.
Yeah.
It's not amazing.
Yeah.
How can they justify not releasing a new plastic kit? Make their rules so good they sell so many of the old ones that clearly it's not a problem.
But for every example you can give a counter argument, like Vespers.
Yeah.
Were crap and they're still crap. Servitors, no one buys servitors. They're awful, and they always have been.
Oh, like not the battle servitors, but
yeah, yeah. But you can get them for Admech or Space Marines. A servitor with a plasma cannon on should be cool, right? Terrible.
Oh.
You know, yeah. So I would say that for every unit that you point to, there's probably a unit which is terrible and always has been terrible. Corn Berserk, they're trying to balance the rules, right?
Yeah, they are trying to balance the rules, and I think they've done an amazing job so far of balancing the rules. There's lots of questions about index versus codex type stuff.
In 7th, there was definitely a push with formations to sell stuff. Suddenly, Riptides, let's sell loads of Riptides, Riptide Wing. And then there would be another formation come out, and that would be the new hotness. Then another formation came out, and that would be the new hotness. And you could definitely tell that in 7th edition it was model-inspired marketing, if that's the way of thinking. If you know what I mean.
Do you think it exists in 8th with the codexes coming out in the order that they're coming out in?
But in 8th, they leveled the playing field as best as they could, I think, and they ran out of basilisks, and they ran out of Blight Lord Terminators, and they ran out of Manticores, and they ran out. There's a bunch of stuff that you couldn't get on the Games Workshop website in the first couple of months, and this is old stuff that was still pretty good. You suddenly couldn't get anymore because. Yeah. It was a runaway success. What was your question? I ignored you. I was trying to get.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You carry on. You ignore me as much as you want. What I then said is, do you think that there's this sort of creep in 8th whereby the indexes leveled the playing field?
Right. Yeah.
And they sold loads of everything. Essentially, that's what it seems to me. They sold loads of everything because the playing field was leveled. We had the Marines, then the Chaos, then the Death Guard, and slowly but surely we've now gone through Eldar, Imperial. I will always call it Imperial Guard. Cult Mech or Admech, most recently Tyranids.
Yeah.
Do we think now the codexes are slightly more powerful each time to move people onto the new...
Dude, these codexes were written like a year ago. It's like Frankie and Reese from Frontline Gaming and the guys from, what's the other one? Nova, have been playtesting the 8th edition rule set for over a year.
Yeah.
So
this is
these codexes have been done, they were written last year.
So I see...
the order in which they come out is a different thing, yeah, but the codexes was written a long time ago.
I see a lot of Salt actually commenting about this whole claim from Games Workshop about it's the most play-tested edition ever.
Okay.
Now, I try and respond without being myself salty, and I'll explain what I mean. People see these rules flaws at times, these things that need FAQs, these things that need erratas, and essentially the claim is this is nowhere near the most play-tested edition ever. They're pulling our legs. I don't think that's the case. I think simply if people stop trying to break the rules, then we won't need all these FAQs. Some things will need FAQs and erratas, and when you consider the amount of codexes, the amount of rules that have been written, the fact that they basically scrapped a whole edition and started again, there's going to be flaws, even if it's playtested for 6 months.
I still think it's the most playtested edition ever. The fact that they've got people in the community playtesting it, whereas beforehand it was little Timmy who used to sit on reception, and the T-boy from the canteen who did the playtesting, and that was it. In 7th edition, there was 2 people playtesting the edition.
With one game, that was it.
So now they've got 20. It's the most playtested edition.
I think we've mentioned it before. I don't understand a community that can complain and complain and complain that they don't release FAQs, they don't release updates. Then in a new edition with a new interaction, they're on it like that, and then people complain. Yeah, I don't get that.
They don't release codexes quick enough, and now they're doing 16 before Christmas, in between 8th edition and Christmas.
Yeah, mental.
People complain. It's just the curve. I like the curve analogy all the time. You get people here, right? Most people sit in the middle.
Yeah,
And you don't hear them complaining because most people are just enjoying the game and blah, blah, blah. But the ones at this extreme and the ones at this extreme are the ones that my granddad had a saying, the broken wheel squeaks the loudest. So on the trolley, on the shopping trolley.
Yeah.
Yeah? So if there's people who are really complaining, because the way they played the game is now all broken because of the way they interact with their friends and the kind of army Ynnari have now taken a massive hit. So the ones who are really screaming about Ynnari are really screaming about Ynnari, squeaking the loudest.
Okay.
You know the match play Ynnari thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen that in the. It's like, is it in the chapter approved that is coming out, or is that already? That's the FAQ, isn't it?
It's the FAQ. It's live now.
If you don't know what we're talking about, the FAQ, they dropped another FAQ about 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And there was a big change to Ynnari, like a huge change to Ynnari.
I like anything that annoys Eldar.
So it doesn't specifically bother me from a gaming standpoint because I didn't really play Ynnari. I had plans to. I still have plans to. That won't change because I'm trying to go. And I say I'm trying. I'm almost sold now. I'm going down the route of fluff for pretty much everything I want to do because I'm so invested in the story now, and I want to build Ynnari because I like the story about how Ynnari have come into being, etc.
Do you like the story how they came into being?
Yeah, I like Ynnari's story.
You've read Fall Acadia?
I've read most of Fall Acadia.
I think one of the biggest arguments against advancing the Games Workshop fluff is that whenever Games Workshop advances the fluff, they're very, very bad at it. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. So I like Ynnari. However, they have a rule called Strength from Death. Strength from Death essentially means that if a unit died within 7 inches, I believe it was, you could do a soul burst action, any infantry or bike unit. That changed from 7th edition. 7th edition was any unit with the Ynnari, the Ynnari faction could soul burst. Soul burst allowed you to either move, shoot, charge, or cast a psychic power, essentially out of turn. So if a friendly unit died because you were being shot at next to you 7 inches, you could soul burst. If you killed an enemy unit within 7 inches, you could soul burst. Each unit could only soul burst once, but if you were able to soul burst your whole army, you could do a whole extra turn of shooting essentially if you wanted to. The way they've changed it is firstly you can only do one of each type of soul burst per turn.
One shoot, one move, one psychic power, done.
I'm not dead against that, that's fine. I've got no problems with that.
Yeah.
The bit they changed that I'm not sold on is now if your opponent kills one of your units, you can't soul burst in their turn. You can only soul burst in your turn when you're killing opponent units.
Yeah.
Surely if some Eldar unit is dying next to an Eldar Ynnari unit, that is what would cause them to soul burst.
Yeah.
That's just a fluff issue.
It's match play only. So it's in narrative and an open war, you can still do the odd soul burst thing, but in match play rules, you can't soul burst in your opponent's turn.
And match play is probably not what you'll see very much on our channel.
No. You're doing all the narrative stuff.
Narrative and open war.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool, and a little bit different.
Yeah. Most of my stuff is match play, but
you've done a couple of narratives that were really
I've done
good.
A few narratives.
But you know, I said to you they were really good, and you just ignored me. So
thanks for saying they're really good. Did we answer that question?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't think it's. I don't think they make stuff for. I don't think they make rules for stuff. I don't think they're that. I think they plan this way in advance. I don't think that. I think 7th edition was a real example of them making rules for stuff and trying to pimp models. Which
was done by formations essentially.
Yeah, and I don't think they're that clever when it comes to their rule system about what we do is another thing. I don't think that's their mindset. They like the game. They enjoy the game. They're fans of the game too, and they want it to work really well.
I mean, one of the examples people throw at me often is Death Guard. Obviously, they're essentially a new faction. They're not a new faction, but they are a new faction. Death Guard have obviously always existed in 40k, but now they have their own standalone codex, which they never had before.
Yeah.
And actually, they're quite a powerful force if played properly.
Yeah.
Dare I say the word properly? Properly is maybe not the right word. The right combinations.
They're quite a powerful force of Mortarion. Take Mortarion out.
Yeah. That's the Primarch creep which I've got issues with.
Are they more powerful than the new Tyranids? Are they more powerful than Astra Militarum?
No, well,
if you think about where Death Guard sit in the current meta, they're not sort of, hey, this is the new faction, and they are clearly the best. But remember when Grey Knights dropped? He smashed everything for a year and a half. They were the new faction. Remember when Ynnari dropped last year?
Oh my lord!
Smashed everything.
And when they dropped in 7th, they were ridiculous.
Now we've got that. So this is the evidence that we need. This is the first 8th edition brand new drop codex Death Guard, and it's not smashing everything with insight.
No, and if you look at some of the recent tournaments that have happened across the globe, and you look at the leaderboards, there is plenty of normal Adeptus Astartes lists. Plenty of chaos lists that aren't Death Guard specific. There's demons, there's Astra Militarum. There was, up until recently, some Ynnari. I imagine we won't see them very much anymore. Because I now think the way they've changed Strength from Death, to give up battle focus and to give up combat drugs and power from pain, No, you don't give up combat drugs, you only give up power from pain. I don't think that will be worth it now for those players, where they can rather take two different detachments
the
together.
competitive lists weren't really Ynnari lists, they were Harlequins with a couple of HQs from Ynnari and that was it.
Pretty much. Especially that god, the avatar, because he was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on, because this kind of fits with the end of that question, and it was completely unintentional, but that's how well this flows, you see.
You know what's unintentional as well? Your handwriting, you write like a doctor. I mean, it's big, but I can't read any of that.
No, I was scribbling it yesterday at work. I was very busy, very busy. So the next question, I'm always very busy. The next question is, what do we think about power level games and points games? Have you played, because I haven't, have you played many power level games?
I played one. I just played one. I think if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I'd probably play much more.
Because I'm thinking
it's
about...
pick-up games. So
I'm thinking about using power level games on YouTube.
Okay. It was a pickup game with my mate, and I asked him a couple of months ago, do you want to play 40k? And he said yes. I said 100 points turn up, and he did, and it was balanced, and off we went.
Okay.
The guy plays Grey Knights on the channel. If it wasn't for YouTube, I'd probably play more power levels, because it's just easy. And that's because I don't play competitive. If I was playing a real proper competitive, then obviously...
Yeah, of course. If you go down the competitive route, you need points, I think. I think you just need you for that extra degree of balance. But I'm on about playing narrative games, open war games, campaigns, stories on our channel when we get going. So I think actually power level is really easy. And if we're going to do our
if
tale
of narrative, then
we're going to do our tale of Wargamers type series from January onwards. And actually, because we're starting from basically start collecting boxes, and then we're going to build them as they go. And the idea perhaps is that new players or people returning to the hobby could follow that as well, because they can see what we're doing and see how we're growing.
Yeah.
And actually, an easier way for people to learn this game would probably be power level, because it's nowhere near as convoluted or complex as building lists currently with points. And
I think that's what the new generation are going to do. The ones that succeed us.
Power level.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
When we're dead and gone in 6 months' time, just be power levels.
Overdose on coffee. I would be surprised, because I also think one of my biggest gripes with 8th, and it's not even that much of a gripe, but one of my gripes with 8th is the point system is maybe slightly more complicated than it needed to be.
Yeah. They got an army builder on Age of Sigmar, right? And they said there's one coming.
Yeah, they said that on release of 8th edition. There's one coming. It's still, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And I use Battle Scribe. Dare I say it? I use Battle Scribe. Battle Scribe's relatively good. It's relatively reliable. It's not the world's best, and you sometimes have to take things that it allows you to do with a pinch of salt, because these files on Battle Scribe are just built by the community. Yeah. So they're never going to be that spot on. If someone interprets it different to the way I interpret it, it may or may not let me do something I think I can or can't do. But I use Battle Scribe for points because I just can't be bothered to go this much for a Marine, plus his bolt pistol, plus his bolt gun, plus his left pauldron, because it just annoys the hell out of me.
Okay, that's what I do.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I hate doing that because I think it's maybe because I'm just so used to this is the cost of your model with these weapons.
Yeah.
You want this extra weapon or this upgrade, you pay for the upgrade.
Okay.
Just win.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
So yeah, I like the idea of power levels, and I think we're going to try and bring it to the channel and see how it stands. I've asked a couple of hobby groups and forums, asked the patrons.
Yeah, if you do narrative, I know Mini Wargaming did power level at the start, and then went to match play, then went back to power level, and then I know that they've gone completely from power level now because the majority of people out there in internet land prefer match play.
You reckon?
That's the feedback they were getting.
Okay.
They were getting the feedback saying, we want the points. So they stopped doing the power level and went back to points. However, they're doing open war, right?
Yes.
They're doing open war, they're doing Eternal War, they're doing Maelstrom. If you're doing narrative, then you should play match play. So I would. Particularly in the way you're doing it. You're doing the tale of three armies, building it up. Together, a group of gamers come together and buy a box set and paint some stuff. And
you can do the voiceovers now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to clip that bit and put it on. No, I know. Like, I've never played power level. I've looked at it. I've never played it, and people have said that they've played games where the power level, they have the points up, but the power level difference is 10, 15 power levels in difference.
Okay.
So I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand fully how that can work. Perhaps it's because one's min-maxing, one's taking loads of upgrades, and that's why the balance falls apart. But I think that's where we'll go. I'm going to give it a go. I don't have an opinion on power level at the moment because, as for a gaming standpoint, because I haven't played it, I do think it's simpler for newer players to learn.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's why it exists. It's
Yeah.
for the new players. Here's models. Here's the power level. Job done. Go.
And what me and my friends gaming so far have been doing is playing narrative games
Yeah.
and open war games with points. So we've been picking and choosing from all different 3 sections.
Yeah.
We want the open war cards. We want the psychic phase from narrative. We want the points level from matched, and that's how we've done it.
That's what I've done. The narrative ones I've done are using points.
I think if you explain that beforehand, people are okay with it.
It's because I forgot.
Right, okay. I'm going to just make sure this is all right.
Halfway through the game,
waffling for no reason.
Why are we not using palettes? Oh, no.
Yeah. Why have I only been able to do this? Oh well. So, obviously with 40k, this has been the case for many, many editions of the game. There's been rules conflicts. Yes. I have a rule that says this, you have a rule that says that. Back in 7th edition, I don't know if this exists in 8th, maybe you can correct me. Back in 7th edition, there was a Codex Trumps rulebook type system.
Okay, yes.
Does that exist in 8th? I haven't seen it. So someone came up with a suggestion in one of the videos, how about we give the rules a tier-based system? So you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 rules.
Really?
Yeah, and at first I thought, well, that overcomplicates it for the sake of it, and I read on. So he says essentially we have a tier 1 rule system, a tier 2 rule system, a tier 3 rule system. If there's ever a conflict, and you've got 2 different tiers, tier 1 beats tier 2, there we go, that's the rule that takes precedence. So for example, this is now going away from what he's written, I've now explained what he's written.
But what if you've got a tier 2 and a tier 2?
Well, you need some clever rules writers to make sure that...
Then you've got a conflict.
Yeah, it's never going to be perfect, is it? But
no, so putting in another system to fix them...
But as long as you make sure that those tiers don't conflict each other. So for example...
I'll say they did.
For example, let me finish.
What about the children?
So let's say Overwatch.
They will cry. If
Overwatch.
there's a tier 3 and a tier 3, the children will get upset.
Winters.
Okay, sorry.
Overwatch always hits on a 6. Yeah?
Yes.
We call that a tier 1 system.
Okay.
If you're more than, I don't know, 6 inches, you have a rule, more than 6 inches away you suffer -1 to hit, for example. Call that a tier 2 system.
Yeah.
The argument of, well, if I'm -1 to hit and I'm charging from 7 inches away, you can't hit me in Overwatch, goes away. Because you've got tier 1 over tier 2. I know really that probably doesn't exist as a problem currently in the rules, but people still argue that fact. People still argue those types of rules scenarios. And if you have a tier system, that goes.
Why can't we all just get along?
Yeah, I'm with you entirely, but we can't.
No, it's just, nah. It's more systems to fix systems that might be flawed, which are probably not flawed. It's the people reading them that are a bit flawed.
That's where I sit with it, really.
Yeah.
It's not that the rules are flawed. The rules are never, in any gaming system you ever play, rules are never going to be perfect, because they're just not.
There is a rule that says, if you find something that genuinely conflicts to each other, then dice off. There is that rule. Mm-hmm. So just
but people don't like that because it's not a definitive answer.
Because there's very few cases where, I've been doing it for, I don't want to go into a rant because I'm aware that people are watching and I'll be talking to some of them, but I've been doing this for a long time now and filming quite a lot and putting quite a lot on the on the internet and getting quite a lot of feedback every time I make a mistake, but the actual genuine times where there really is a rules conflict are so that it never comes up, maybe 1 in 1,000.
And if they do, I've come up...
genuine rule conflicts.
Yeah.
Most of them, as you said, is the player.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So I've come up against a few rule conflicts that the person who's arguing with me thinks is a genuine rule conflict.
See, so violence solves most arguments.
Yeah, that's what I tell my children. But they have this rule conflict that they think is a genuine rule conflict. I don't, and I don't. To be honest with you, I don't even roll a dice. I just say, well, okay, if that's what you think, then you can have it. Don't bother me. Because it doesn't bother me. Yeah. I just want to have fun. I mean, if it was ridiculous, then I may argue to a point. But I don't want to lose the passion for the game and lose the love for the game I'm playing at that point in time by arguing in the middle of a match.
Are you thinking about one specific person when you say this as well? No. Have you got a person in mind?
No.
Because I know what you're talking about, and I've got a person in mind.
Have you?
Yeah, it tends to be a personal type of person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eldar players.
Oh, that wasn't very nice.
But it's the truth.
It's not the truth. I am an Eldar player.
It's Eldar players. It's all your fault.
Everything's the Eldar fault. We're not going to go down that route again. We did that in the first video. We don't need to carry on.
No, that was clearly a joke. But there's a type of player. It's that whack player, right? It'll argue every single point.
Yeah, there is that whack player. So I'm going to mention this just because actually it really wound me up, and then there was comments put on the video below, and then he got really annoyed that people were picking him up for something that he was wrong for. Played John from VisiCast a while ago.
Okay.
I'm talking 5 weeks ago. I can't remember who we were playing. Oh, no, I was Eldar, and he was his Ravenwing.
Yeah.
Okay. So he built this lovely board because we're filming it for YouTube. Lots of scenery, lots of line blocking, lots of tall buildings, lots of tall towers. Off camera, what we do is we place objectives because people don't necessarily want to watch that because it's a bit tedious and a bit boring.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do is place objectives for stuff that I think will then interact well when it comes to filming.
Okay.
So the first objective I placed in a bastion at the top.
Yeah.
Top of a bastion.
Yeah.
Now he's got like I say, Ravenwing. So he's got 3 aircraft. They can't take objectives as per the FAQ. He's then got bikes and nothing but bikes. Apart from Samael and a jet bike. So he's got nothing that apart from Samael that can take that objective.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "You can't put that there." I said, "Why not?"
Yeah.
Well, I can't take it. Well, that's your fault because of the army you've picked.
Yeah. I've got a real true story about this as well. I used to play tournaments. I think I mentioned it before. I used to play tournaments back in 4th and 5th edition, where there was one force organisation, which was a HQ, 2 troops, and that unlocks
the old combined arms type, but just that.
The most successful list I had was a White Scars list, because it was back in 5th edition. Because in 5th edition, a couple of things you could do. 1, you could reserve everything, and 2, you could outflank everything. So what I'd do is and there was only Eternal War, so going second was powerful.
Yeah.
Because that means at the end of game turn
you
5,
were last.
Yeah. So what I tended to do was reserve everything, and in game turn 1, my opponent went and there was nothing to shoot at. And then in my turn 1, there was nothing on the table. And then they had a second turn of moving and shooting at nothing. And then in turn 2, 2/3 of my army came in, most of it outflanking. And it was very successful.
I bet it was annoying to play against.
It was really annoying to play against. It's a tournament list. I don't do it anymore. I'm a reformed character. It was really annoying to play against. And in that edition as well, bikes couldn't go up ruins.
No.
So in that list, I had 2 Razorbacks with 5-man tactical squads in, specifically to clamber up onto buildings to get objectives at the end of the game if I need to. And they could outflank too, because you could put the troops inside the Razorback, and therefore the White Scars rule applied to the transport.
Yeah.
Long story short, I feel John's pain, but if he's playing that type of list and he's bringing it to a tournament, then he should have a Razorback.
Well, so I argued with him because he's like, house rule, we can't do it because it's rubbish. I was like, well, it's not, is it?
No,
because
his list is crap.
There's 6 objectives. We place 3 each. We place 3 each.
Yeah.
So as long as if I put my 3 up high, as long as he puts his 3 on the ground, then he's got a 50% chance of catching whatever objective card he pulls anyway.
Yeah.
But if he's that fussed about it, put land speeders in the list.
And you know what? If he's playing a tournament list as well, he should want to play against every list that is his rock to his scissors. And he should want to try and play against every scenario which really puts him at a disadvantage. And then he'll get better at his list. If he just wants to play his tournament list in scenarios which benefit him versus lists that benefit him, he won't learn very much.
Let's be fair, I'm not trying to destroy John's reputation.
No, let's destroy him.
I love John, I love that channel, and I've played with it many, many times.
I've done it once. He's coming here in January.
Yeah,
on Winters.
I heard he was on his way here. I just didn't know when it was. But he's a wonderful player, lots of fun to play against. It's just that one particular instance, and I thought to myself, with this argument about rules and tier systems and all this kind of rubbish that goes on with rules, that was just one of those things that stuck out in my mind as, I don't like that rule because it doesn't suit the army I've built. Well, tough. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, particularly if you're playing tournaments, I'd say if I was going to a tournament, I would want to tomorrow. I'd want to play, or next week, whatever. I want to play the list that I struggle against and the scenarios that I struggle against.
I mean, I think John's the sort of person who won't. He's getting back into the tournament scene quite a lot. I think he's off to the GT quite soon. He's built his Inch Demon list specifically for it.
Sweet. That's
going to open up a whole other topic I'll talk to you about in a minute. Something that bugs me a little bit, and I don't know whether it just bugs me because it actually exists as a problem, or whether it doesn't exist as a problem and I'm being salty for the sake of it, which might be the case. I try not to be, but it might be the case. So, actually, we'll talk about it now because this is what we do. We just dive off. He's got this Inch Demon list, right? Yeah. I did give him many, many criticisms for it being a net list. He says it's not. I think it is. I'll tell you roughly. Essentially, there is a...
Is it lots of Brimstone Hollers and Magnus and the Chariot guy?
No Magnus.
Okay.
The Chariot guy, you mean... Who's a chariot guy?
With the smiting and the thing on the
So he's
flame.
got exalted flamers,
Yeah.
many exalted flamers,
Yeah.
many brimstone horrors.
Yeah.
The changeling from -1 to all these demons,
Yeah.
and then instead of Magnus, he's gone on the route of Forge World Lord of Change dude.
Okay, so that's not on net list because he switched out Magnus for someone else. So
Someone more powerful.
75% of it is a net list.
which I said to
Oh, the Lord of Change, the really big guy with the stuff.
I don't even know how you say his name. The big Lord of Change.
He used to be 999 points in 7.
Yeah,
How
and
many
he's
points is
now
he now?
500-600 odd points.
Is that it?
But he's an absolute beast.
Yeah, he used to, because they had the one that was 666. That was the Slanesh one.
Yeah. Corwin was 888.
Yeah. Nurgle was
One of the
777.
worst decisions they ever made was that pointing, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been so bad if the rules matched it. Anyway, so he's got that list that he's built, and then this is something else I've been reading up. Actually, this morning I read even more on it. Tournament play. So I know you are more of a narrative type person, but you must keep an eye on match play and tournament type play and stuff like that.
Yes.
I do obviously as well, because it does interest me. People are now crying for tournament based play, and one of the biggest reasons is that specific model we've just spoke about. Should we be banning Forge World from 8th edition tournaments and games as such?
That old chestnut.
It's never going to go away, that, I don't think.
It's tournament players. I want to bring the biggest, more powerful thing in the world ever. However, you're not allowed to bring that one.
Yeah. So you might know more about this than I do, because you've got more of an insight into behind the scenes.
They cap the power level, don't they, in most tournaments?
They do.
Power level 30.
But you've got more behind the scenes than I do. Does Forge World really have a different rules writing team to normal Warhammer 40k?
Yes.
Do they?
Yeah.
So, because I always sort of assumed they'd be the same rules writing teams.
Nah, not really. They pretty much function separate of each other.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe there is.
They'll talk to each other. They're probably in the same building. They're probably a couple of rooms away from each other. But you'll have this. There is a Forge World design team and art. The art team crosses over. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is an art team, but the Forge World design team and all that functions as pretty much a separate entity.
Okay, I didn't know. So maybe there is argument that if it's a 40k
but again,
rule set.
for every Forge World model that you can point to, which is overpowered, I can point to Forge World models which are really, really bad.
Yeah,
And they're not very well.
But take the Forge World balance out of the scope. You look at the people's whinges and problems with the game.
Yeah.
Conscript spam, Brimstone Horror spam,
Yeah.
Razorback Assault Cannon spam with Gullyman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not Forge World.
Yeah.
None of that stuff's Forge World.
Exactly. And then Forge World is a little bit of a moan. Look, tournament players like to complain a lot.
Yeah.
You don't get, and actually that's a good point. Narrative players really like to complain about narrative, and they'll moan about it all the time. Like
they moan when the rules don't match their opinion of the narrative.
So I got a bit salty when the Adeptus Mechanicus.
No.
Yeah, you might have noticed.
I think everyone noticed that one, mate.
There's Arch Warhammer. I don't know if you guys are aware of Arch Warhammer. Go to Arch Warhammer on YouTube. Fantastic narrative guy, one of my faves. And he's got a real beef about Primaris Space Marines and the Great Rift and all of that. That's, so narrative players moan too, but about things that they're engaged with. And match play guys, tournament guys moan about the stuff that they're engaged with, but long story short.
It's based entirely on your passion, isn't it? If
Yes.
you're passionate about something and it's not quite how you think it should work, you're probably going to have a win.
Generally speaking, Forge World isn't broken.
No, I mean I don't like Forge World purely because I don't like resin.
If Forge World genuinely was broken, then every single tournament list that we've seen would have a chunk of Forge World in it, and that isn't the case.
No, which normally indicates it's not that bad.
Yeah, really. You point to that Lord of Change guy, but I'll point Gulliman.
Well, to be fair, most of those net lists that John's building, I'm going to keep saying it because it annoys him, won't have that Lord of Change model in it anyway. They'll have Magnus, like you said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, is it that bad? If people are picking Magnus as a plastic model from Warhammer with normal Warhammer 40k rules over that Lord of Change, then surely he's not that broken. Because if he was that bad, you would just pick that model.
Exactly. And Magnus has got that super smite, right, for the smite phase.
It is a form of super smite,
psychic phase.
Yeah. So instead of doing D3 wounds, and then Magnus's wording's weird. Smite is, if you roll a 5 or more in the psychic test, you do D3 wounds. If you get more than 10, specifically, so 11 or 12, you get D6 mortal wounds. Magnus's is different. If you roll 5 or more, well actually 3 or more, because he adds 2 to a psychic phase, you do D6 mortal wounds. If you roll 10 or more, not just more than 10, that's the way this is worded, you get 2d6 mortal wounds. Obviously, you only need an 8 on your dice for Magnus because
Yeah.
he gets +2 to his psychic phase. So he has got super smite.
Super smite.
I love Magnus.
Yeah.
However, I would argue, especially for his points, he may be a touch too powerful.
Do you think Games Workshop should rename the psychic phase the smite phase?
It really annoys me, the smite phase.
The smite phase.
It does really annoy me.
It's smite, conceal. that's what happens.
And I think that's part of my problem, and I think that's partly why I prefer narrative for psychic phase, because narrative doesn't restrict psychic phase. Now,
how would you fix the smite phase? How would you fix smite? Because people keep talking about let's fix it. That's a big debate. Yeah.
So there's two things
debate,
I would do. Massive. There's two things I would do.
Debate.
Whether I did shut you down on that one last time, and I'm not.
I got it in this time.
I know.
I'm really pleased.
There was a comment about that.
I know.
There was actually a comment about that.
One person picked it up.
Yeah. And I didn't even. I had to watch it again for a 4th or 5th time, 6 times, 7 times, just to pick up on it.
I threw that banana. You didn't pick it up.
No.
You didn't want to play with it.
Yeah, there is 2 things I would do, and I don't know if this would fix it. It's just my opinion.
Okay.
So the first thing is I don't like the restriction on psychic powers to 1 per power apart from smite. You either treat them all the same or not at all.
Ooh, that's a significant change, and you can do that in narrative play.
The reason why I think that fixes it to a degree, because I've played narrative. So, for example, you've got rules like, I don't know, warp time for chaos. Certain psychers can only cast 1 to 2 powers. If you're spamming warp time, you're out. So my 1,000 Suns, for example, if I was to choose to do it, and I spam warp time to move all my 5-inch moving Marines, because I haven't got vehicles, because I'm going for an infantry heavy kind of narrative based list, and I warp time them all forward to move 10 inches instead of 5. If it isn't broken, I'm not going to be in your face turn 1 with my whole army.
Yeah.
I then restrict my ability to spam smite because I've casted a power already. Yeah, so smite spam goes away.
No, but say like Grey Knights, instead of smite spam, they do Vortex of Doom spam. Boom, 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 boom.
So
that would be very painful.
You are right. So then what you could do is introduce perhaps the tier system that he's on about, but introduce that to psychic powers. So psychic power 1 and 2 are unrestricted. Yeah. Psychic power 1, 2, and 3 are unrestricted. Psychic power 4, 5, and 6 you can use once per phase.
Is that what you would do to fix smite then? You would give it a tier system. Maybe
that the first 3 powers, for example, if they're the weaker 3, are unrestricted. You can do them as many times as you want in the psychic phase.
Okay.
The next 3, if you're including things like Vortex of Doom, you can do once per psychic phase.
Okay.
That way, people's temptation to not always cast smite might go away because they've got other options.
Why don't they just change smite to, on a 1, 2, 3 it's 1 damage, on a 4, 5, 6 it's 2.
That works. The other
and
thing
then you've still got Brimstone Horrors going.
The other thing they can do for armies that have got the ability to spam, as in lots of smite, is go down the Grey Knight route of you do 1 mortal wound instead of...
Mind you, I'm quite tempted because most of the people I play are here and friends and people who come around, and most of the people I'm in contact with on the internet are not tournament players, and I don't know what the percentage of people who play tournaments are. Is it 5%? Is it 10%?
I haven't got a clue.
It's a percent, right?
Yeah, there is obviously a percentage.
That's where smite spam's a problem. In most cases, most people don't really have a problem with it.
And if I was playing with a list that could, I don't think I would. Unless the other guy was particularly not... Obviously, it's different at tournaments.
Yeah.
If I was at a tournament, I would. Of course you would. Yeah. Because you can.
And then Lawrence did that really good video about No Retreat 5 or 6 and how to deal with smite spam. So he had Dark Eldar, and what he did was he just chucked out 5 units of 5 Cavalites.
Yeah, because you could only smite the nearest anyway.
Yeah. Scouts, if you're playing Space Marine, Scouts are really, really good, and you just put them forward and
it's almost a waste. It's almost a wasted smite, dare I say it, because you're literally feeding fodder to them and going, you keep worried about that whilst I keep my important unit here.
It's the closest possible thing. Skitari Rangers, 8 points each. Unit of 5, 40 points.
And that's why things like Conscript and Brimstone Horror Spam exists. Because not only can you pack out your field to stop deep striking for people to get to your important units anyway, but you just feed them Brimstones that cost, 3 points each? Yeah, take a Brimstone off the board for a smite, you crack on. Yeah. No problem. So, I mean, there's ways I would fix the psychic phase personally, because I like the psychic phase. I'm an Eldar player, I have 1,000 Suns at home. I've always liked the psychic phase. Always liked the psychic phase.
You're an Eldar player.
Exactly. I used to have a Seer Council in 7th. I loved it. So I don't like the way the psychic phase sits. I'm not complaining because I don't think it's terrible. I think it's probably better than it was in the old edition. I could pick my powers for God's sake.
Have you got an Imperium army? Have you got any Imperial army?
I own Imperial models.
But an army?
I had the Admech.
What about the God Emperor of Man?
I had the Admech, which is gone.
Okay.
Because I hated it.
Yeah, but that wasn't your fault. That was his fault.
I've got a Dark Angels army that's not painted. That's going to sit there for a while. Yep. The reason being, I did some videos recently.
I said, have you got an Imperial army? Dark Angels don't count.
Right. Okay. Well, that will upset people. I did 2 videos recently about the upcoming Dark Angels and Blood Angels Codex.
No, I think that's so cool that thing.
What thing?
But it shouldn't upset people, Dark Angels. I think it's so cool that basically that's good, they're bad, they're bad, they're good.
That's part of why I love them.
Yeah.
And you don't actually truly know where they sit.
I've got asked, one of the questions that I get asked every now and then is, if you could start again knowing what you know, what would you get? And it would be Dark Angels.
Would it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So
that duality, it's the Batman thing, isn't it? It's good guy, bad guy. It's the bad guy who's got a good guy in him, or the good guy who's got the bad guy in him. Well, it's that duality of soul, that yin yang. It's very interesting.
I think that's what really drew me to them in the first place.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that you've got the 3 aspects essentially of the Dark Angels, and they've got their own tier system.
There's more than 3, in the narrative there's like 10.
Yeah, but because you've got the Deathwing in the gaming sense, you've got the Deathwing, the Ravenwing, and the normal and the Greenwing, I suppose you call it.
Yeah.
You've got the Inner Circle and then the Huntsman for the Ravenwing, and I love that kind of build to the Force. So I was really drawn to Dark Angels. Yeah. I did 2 videos recently. One was on Dark Angels, one was on Blood Angels, upcoming codexes. One was kind of a rumours thing. I think most of them were quashed as someone made it up, but I thought it was cool to talk about, so we talked about it. Yeah. The other one was the Blood Angels one, where we went, well, this is what we would like to see. Yes, I know we discussed rules that already exist in the index, but we were just telling you what we wanted to see from it. And I got more excited about the impending Blood Angels. I don't know why. No idea why. I just did. Having said that, and I've made the decision that I'm going to build, and this is all your fault, I hope you're aware. Okay. I made the decision I'm going to build a channel-based army.
Sweet.
We're currently building the narrative for this army. Yeah. It is Blood Angels for the channel. They've got their own chapter name, their own background, their own heraldry. Yeah. We're already putting all the names in place. Yeah. And that's all your fault because it's the way you do things.
13.
Yeah. That's that sort of stuff that I've loved to watch, and I've loved to read the narrative stuff you've done on Garrow and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't start. I borrowed that from other people. Well, that's the stuff that I liked when I started.
And that's the stuff. And I find myself watching battle reports, and if there's something that involves a story-based army, for the 13th, Lawrence's Ulthwin Ghosts and stuff like that, I'm more invested in watching that because there's a story behind it. Campaigns come out on Tabletop Tactics or Mini Wargaming, and I'll watch them because it's a campaign. Yeah.
It's not just about whether this army beats that army, but whether this army beats that army, and can that hero stand, or is that guy going to hold on to the relic?
And it becomes a series, like a TV series, and I'm in that. So I'm building. I went down the route of going, Blood Angels is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So I've got to start collecting box set at home. That'll go in January. Then we'll start with that. And then I've limited myself to no named characters because it's my own chapter, and I've limited myself to no Primaris at all.
Sweet. I actually have seen some of that narrative because I know
you have.
You told me it was good. What I would suggest as well, if you're doing that, if you go in Blood Angels, if it was me, I would make sure that I have a lot of Blood Angel stuff. Like I would over-represent the Blood Angels units, Battle Predators, Librarian.
I'm building a chapter. Yeah. Not just a 2,000 point list. I'm building a chapter.
But when you say you get the start collecting box set, then the next things you want to get is Sanguinary Guard and the Battle Predator. Get the Blood Angel stuff. Start off with that. Yeah, get that signature down at the start.
Death Company, Furiosa Dreadnoughts.
Regardless of whether it makes competitive sense or not. Get the stuff that
the real characteristic of that army. So there won't be. You won't see early on Razorbacks, assault cannons, Storm Ravens, all that kind of stuff. It will be Furiosa Dreadnoughts, Death Company. It will be Sanguinary Guard, all that kind of Blood Angels.
Landry and Redeemer works, but definitely.
That's what Predators. That's the way I'm going to go. Yeah. However, I then saw an extract from Devastation of Baal recently. Okay. Between Commander Dante and Gabriel Seth of the Flesh Terrors. Yes. About how many of the Blood Angels number they've lost, and the fact that Gulliman's now looking at replacing the number with Primaris Marines. Yeah. And that means. And Dante was all happy because it means they've cured the Red Thirst and the Black Rage. And I was like, no, don't take that out of the book.
Maybe. We'll see when the
Please
codex
don't take that out of
drops.
the codex. I'm hoping it doesn't. I would imagine if that was going to be the case, they'd shoot themselves in the foot. Because you might as well be in the normal Marine book at that point.
Okay.
Do you not think?
Yeah.
You lose the Red Thirst and the Black Rage from the Blood Angels.
Yeah.
You might as well be in the standard Marine book.
Yeah. It's just Games Workshop changing the storyline and advancing the storyline. They're not very good at it. The people who are good at stories in Games Workshop and narrative are the authors, are the people who are paid to write best-selling books. So your Down Amnats, your Graham McNeil's, your Aaron Dembski-Bowden. Those guys know what they're doing, and when they flesh out the backstory and the history of the stuff, it really, really works. But Games Workshop guys sat in an office somewhere, writing some rules. You know the Primaris Space Marines, you know what their main problem is?
They exist?
They're not Thunder Warriors.
No.
Because they've said that not only is the Emperor's #1 crowning achievement was the Primaris, well not #1, but one of his, okay, maybe number 17, maybe 117. But one of his crowning achievements was the Primaris project, Primarch project, and from the Primarch project the Space Marines were born, right?
Yep.
Genetically engineered superhumans that could do anything, and then suddenly some Adeptus Mechanicus dude who's been manipulated by the Eldar made better ones. They didn't need to do that. What they could have done is, the Great Rift has happened, the galaxy is really, really screwed, things are going badly, there's no ice cream anymore, kids are crying, all sorts of things like that. What are they going to do?
Sounds like my house.
Yeah. What they do is they need a lot more Space Marines, so they could have been a Terminus degree, or there could have been something going on with Gullum, and he says, right, what we're going to do is we're going to unlock the Thunder Warriors one more time, and we're going to unleash the Thunder Warriors on the galaxy. And they could have looked like Space Marines in Space Marine armour, but a bit more chunky, a bit more brutish with type of guns, and they would have sold tons of them, and they would have been bigger, basically larger Space Marines that weren't Space Marines.
They sell Primaris anyway. And to be fair, as much as I despise the narrative behind Primaris, the models themselves are lovely models.
Yeah, and they could have done exactly the same thing. They could have sold Primaris Space Marines with spiky helmets. They could have sold exactly the same models and said that the Thunder Warriors, and that they rampage across the galaxy. And unlike Space Marines who can live on, like Dante is what, 1,400 years old? He's very, very old. He's the oldest Space Marine commander out there.
Yeah.
What was that campaign where him and
Mephisto?
No, it was, who's the chapter master of the Dark Angels again?
Azrael.
So yeah, so it was Dante, Azrael, and Calgar all turned up for some Tyranid thing. I think it was Behemoth, and they all turned up the same system at the same time to destroy the Tyranids. And Calgar and Azrael immediately turned to Dante and said, "You're in charge. You have overall control of my forces. You're the oldest." And that's genius. The tap of the hat.
Just a shame the model's crap.
Anyway, so rewind. They could have sold Primaris Marines, the model's exactly the same, and said they're Thunder Warriors, and instead of living for 1,000 years, they live for 50 years and burn themselves out, and then these worlds. And that's with only a bit more thought about what they were doing. They could have. What I'm saying is the narrative behind the Primaris Space Marines is terrible. The models are great, but the narrative is terrible.
So
their only saving grace. I haven't finished.
I'm paused.
Their only saving grace is in between now and 10 years' time, the Aaron Dembski-Bowdens and the Dan Abnetts and the Graham McNeils and the people like that will get hold of this narrative and will flesh it out and make it good. Eventually it will become good, and there may be another Horus Heresy or Civil War. There's all sorts of open threads that they can
This kind of links into a question one of the patrons gave as well. I can't remember exactly what it is because it's on my phone and I haven't got it here.
However, there's
just
in for
so
about
many.
5
There's
minutes.
a question here. There's another question related. So whilst we're talking about the narrative, to do with Primaris Marines, and the fact that these people are going to get their hands on it and they're going to flesh it out, and that will happen. There was questions from one of my patrons, because I have Patreons.
I know.
It's amazing.
I've got patrons. It's amazing.
Yeah, you have some more than I do.
It blows me away though.
I'm one of your Patreons.
Are you?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm
not one of you.
No, I know. It would be pointless. It would just be Patreon taking money off of us.
Yeah, and PayPal.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the patrons asked a question about the Primaris Marines, and if we think we're going to see in the narrative that will get flashed out a divide happen between Primaris Marines and normal Space Marines.
Do I think that will happen?
Yeah.
I think they should do it.
I think they should do it.
I don't want them to do it soon because I want the authors to get their hands on it and get...
The extract that I've seen from Devastation of Baal, I've not read it yet. I've got it ready to read. I've not read it yet. the extract that I've seen between Dante and Seth shows some real hatred towards Primaris Marines. They are not blood angels.
So why don't you make your a successor chapter of
Flesh Terriers?
Well, they are successor of successors.
They are a successor chapter of the Blood Angels that don't follow Commander Dante's opinion of Primaris, which is part of the reason why they broke away. There is flesh, there is fluff there for it. It's just we need to perfect it, and I've got a guy who's helping me write the fluff. I've got two guys actually who are helping me write the fluff. One of them's an amateur writer, and he's excellent. So we've built some of the backstory as to why they are where they are currently. He's now moved off to talk about a previous battle that's happened to show you how they amazing. And what we're going to do is, and this is 100% plagiarised and stolen from you. There will be some videos where we will just read the fluff out so people know the fluff from the army, just because it gives you that sort of background already. And I find I'm more invested in people's battle reports and armies and games if I know the background and the story. So I want to give it to other people.
Sweet.
So yeah, I hope they do put a wedge between Primaris and normal Marines, and maybe that's where this kind of new edition heresy type thing that we talked about in the very first video we did could start to form between the two. And maybe another Primarch, whether it be the Lion, whether it be Russ, comes back, looks at what Gulliman's doing with these Primaris Marines and goes, whoa, no, that's not right. And maybe that's where this rift comes.
Yeah, I think, do I want them to do that? Yes. But I want them to do it very, 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 very slowly.
Oh, I thought you were going to say carefully.
No, slowly. What I mean is, they're bad at it, okay? And they've left lots and lots and lots of open threads. The Horus Heresy series needs to come to an end, and that will come to an end in the next 3-4 years, whatever. And then you have the Worlds of Warhammer 40k, and then they could advance, and I don't want them to advance the story. I want them to take one of the threads and advance that. What they did with the Fall of Cadia and afterwards with the Great Rift is just galaxy changing.
Everything.
Gilliman woke up, there's loads and loads of little things that happened. I mean, just the collapse of it shouldn't have been called the Fall of Cadia, it should have been called the destruction of Cormora. The Dark City is in ruin, so much so that Vecht fled. And for the first time,
unheard of.
Yeah, I know. And it should have been called. That's bigger than the Bealtown Craftwork break-in, which it isn't really broken. It's okay at the end. It broke, but they got better again. And it's one craft world, and we've seen destructions of craft worlds before. and another thing, we've seen them, but we haven't seen. There's trillions and trillions and trillions of souls in the Dark City. Screw Bealtown. 1, they're Eldar. 2, it's not really that broken. But Cormora.
Your hatred for Eldar is unbelievable. Go on, Cormora.
Stoking the fires. So I want them to move it forward, but only a little bit.
Yeah.
Very, very slowly. Yeah. So I'll give you one thing that it could do. The Dark Angels fall to chaos. Sorry, the Blood Angels fall to chaos. They fall to chaos. They're on the other side of the Great Rift. The Black Rage goes unchecked. They fall to chaos. That's one thread. Grenade.
I like,
I throw grenades at Eldar and
I'm a massive Chaos fan, and as someone who's just decided that his channel chapter is going to be Blood Angels, that suits me down to the ground. I don't know if I like the idea completely that they go to Chaos.
That's just one thread.
They
don't have to, but...
And the story we're building for my Blood Angels, which is a route they could take, because they are the other side of the Great Rift, is that with this Primaris malarkey that's going on, that they go, no, we're not having none of that. We're gonna rebel against Gulliman. We're gonna express that we're still loyal to the Emperor. This is not what he would have wanted, and maybe that's the way it could go. I don't know. Anyway, away from that a little bit, because I'm gonna do another question and hit pause because
I need a tea.
Yeah, it needs to be filled up. But we're gonna finish this little section we're doing here. I say little, it's massive. This section we're doing here with one last question, purely because it's Primaris related and it just happens to be the next one on the list.
Okay.
So we've done the narrative and the fluff about Primaris.
Yes.
We both agree we want to see a divide between normal Marine chapters and all their heraldry and history, between these new imposters, these bloated, oversized Marines built by Archmagos and Eldar Witch. So I want to see them separated. If we come away from the fluff though, when we go to the crunch, we come to the actual rules.
Yeah.
Primaris, you've played them a bit now.
Yes.
I have an opinion that they are now, and I was different to start with, and it's changed. They are worse, rules-wise, than normal Marines.
Yeah, regular Marines better.
Yeah, you agree? Because when they first came out...
Mathhammer-wise, 10 normal Marines can outshoot 5 Primaris Marines with their bolters.
Yeah. So when they first came out, I got nailed a couple of times by big squads of Hellblasters with Galleyman or Captain Lieutenant combo nearby, Lieutenant combo nearby. I even did it then because I watched YouTube much, and I got hit. My Land Raider would have just annihilated, or I'd have a Wraithmite annihilated, and I'm not complaining because Wraithmites were too powerful. Land Raiders are supposed to be more powerful. Both of them annihilated by Hellblasters like that. Yeah. Because there wasn't really a penalty for overcharging because you've got Gullyman nearby, etc. And I was like, Jesus, they really have pushed these super soldiers. Yeah. And yet now the dust has settled, and I wonder sometimes if when they talk about power creep and codex power creep and model, I wonder if when you watch it and you watch it settle, you go, actually, instead of a knee-jerk reaction, they've made those rules good to sell models, or they've made those rules good to sell codexes, or they're pushed. If you let it settle, you realise it's not that bad. No. And with Primaris, now the dust has settled, not only do I think they're not that bad, I actually think they're worse than standard Marines and standard chapters. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? Yeah. Sweet. Well, that's here's a couple of examples. A Primaris Librarian and a normal Librarian do the same psychic powers, pump out the same damage, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you pay for a Primaris Apothecary when you could get a normal Apothecary, which is cheaper, does the same thing? So those are just... Are they not got one more wound or something? They got one more wound, one more attack, but you're not going to ever get your Apothecary in a fight, right? The point is he stays back and picks people up. So that's just an example of two. But I think they're going to... I think you're right. Overall, a Space Marine army will function better, but there's a couple of keys to playing 8th edition, a couple of tricks that you absolutely must get down. Me or anyone? Anyone. Okay. Golden rules, golden tips, and one of them is screen units, is scouts, is rangers, is cultists, is some kind of screen. Some kind of bubble wrap screen, right? You can tell straight away with the new edition of the rules, they wanted to push more infantry heavy forces. They wanted to. I think they do. Okay, but you can say that they wanted to push more vehicles and more this and more that and that. It's just because hordes are back, it does. Hordes were really, really, really bad. But just because they're back, it doesn't mean they're trying to. I'm not even talking hordes. What are you talking? Just infantry. Okay. People using infantry like it should be. Yeah. On foot with the thing. Yeah, I know we're in the grim, dark, far future, but you read stories. Infantry assaults, assault marine assaults, infantry heavy, lots of marines charging in, Imperial Guardsmen everywhere, Tyranid Gribblies all over you don't. How often do you read a book about Tyranid invasion and you've just got big monsters? Yeah. There's a swarm of Hormagates comes in first after Gene Stealers have already infested. Infantry is a thing, and it should be a thing, and I think they wanted to go down that route. Yeah. So, what I was saying was... Yeah, go on, screening units. There's a couple of keys, in 8th edition, if you want to do well, I'm not talking about tournaments, I'm talking about a good list. Good lists have screen. Primaris only Space Marines don't have any scouts, they don't have any screen, they don't have any of that. So they're missing one of the key elements of making a good 8th edition list. They have access to it though. They have access to it, they can bring along scouts, yes. Yeah. Or so they can ally with other stuff, but we're talking about just Primaris on their own. Yeah. And then the other thing, just Primaris on their own, the Dreadnought it's toughness 7 with a 3-up save, it's not great. And it's got a degrading stat line. An Ironclad is better than... Ironclads are amazing. Yeah. As we found out. Yeah. There's, and then the Space Marines, having 2 attacks on a Space Marine, it doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't. I mean, the only reason for me, for Primaris, would be twofold. Firstly would be the extra wound. Because it does make them a little bit more survivable. Having said that, they just have the normal 3-up save, which can be just completely ignored. The other thing with them is that they have that -1 to their bolt gun. Yeah. It's about the only other bonus, to be honest. Yeah. I think that they are worse. I don't think they're as good because you can flood more bodies, more units, more tanks, more whatever on the field by just taking normal Marines. And I think if you look at lists that do well, and we are coming a little bit away from fluff, if you look at lists that do well, tournaments, they are not Primaris heavy. Yeah. They may have a squad of Hellblasters with Gullymen nearby. They certainly don't have an army of Primaris Marines. If you did a Primaris only list, your best Primaris only list that you could come up with versus your best normal Space Marine list that you could come up with, the Space Marines will blow them off the table every time. Yeah. Anyway, he's going to film a cup up because... I didn't bring these cups to not keep showing them. No, I'm going to fill the cup up with some product placement. T-shirt, product placement. All on red bubble. Winters SEO t-shirts coming soon. Right, let's go get some tea. Okay. Oh. So I was going to shoot this at the end of the first video and I got told off and told to wait, so we'll do it now. Thank you very much for watching part 3 of the series. We've just finished filming part 4 of the series. We're going to have another cup of tea. There might even be a little bit more that you'll have to head on over to Winters' channel to see, maybe, perhaps, if that's what he agrees to do. Don't know yet. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please, if you check out the description below, there is a link to our Patreon page. There's a busy WhatsApp group. There's other rewards. If you go in at top level, you get sent paint stations and t-shirts and cups and all sorts of stuff. There's also a link to Redbubble, which is where all our merchandise sits. I only did that because I wanted to wear it, but apparently I can sell it, which is cool. We've already sold 3 cups, 2 t-shirts, or 3 t-shirts. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. Slowly but surely we're going to affect this planet with Warhammer-based content.
Warhammer houses, Warhammer planes.
Planes, exactly.
Yachts.
Yeah. Although it won't be as cool as the fact that soon you can buy a Winters hat.
That's coming soon.
Amazing. If you haven't already, head on over to Winters' channel, hit the subscribe button and watch his content, because it's one of the inspirations, one of the few inspirations for this channel. Thank you very much for watching this. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe for this, and then you keep getting to watch my wonderful face talk about Warhammer type stuff.
It's been good fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look out for part 4, which will be released soon, and look out for anything else we decide to do in the near future, because I'm sure there'll be plenty more. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one.